Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This episode is a very special episode. This is the first ever podcast I've done on my channel. And what better way to do it than my friend who works at Pixar. He's a senior animator, Nedy Acet. And Nedy came to Bournemouth University to do a BFX animation workshop, acting for animation and just answering students' questions. So he was a special guest, and I did my master's in Bournemouth about 20 years ago. So it was nice to go down and visit my old friends and teachers that are still there, and to meet up with Nedy after 13, 14 years and just catch up. And it was great to have a chat with him, and he dropped some pure gems in this podcast that you're really going to enjoy. So without further ado, let's dive into this podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to Opimation. I'm OP, the fitness animator, and today we have a special guest who is, I would say, to me, a dear friend. We went to school together, animation mentor together, and this guy is Nedy, and he's just gone up like this, man, in animation in the class. You know, he's one of those students who, you know, you look back and you see students in the class, you knew this guy was going to shine. So I'm very honored, and Nedy has been invited to come to Bournemouth to do a festival here and a talk on performances and animation performance and acting, isn't it? Yep. We're giving workshops, and I always wanted to do a podcast. And what better way to do it than a senior animator from Pixar. So Nedy, this is an honor, man, and it's been about 15 years, isn't it?
Here, yeah.
Thank you, man. 15 years, no, 2008, isn't it? That we met at the graduation.
Long time. Good.
Graduation. That was when I was living in the States too. So The timing was all good to meet there. But this episode is all about Nedy and the questions. So we're going to dive in and really find the workflows that Nedy goes through, and just, you know, the day in a life for a Pixar animator. Got a whole list here that you guys have sent in.
Shoot them, please.
Okay, brilliant, man. So the first thing we'll do, Nedy, just introduce yourself. How did you start in animation? What initially drew you to animation, and your journey, how you got to Pixar?
Wow, that's a big question. Well, I didn't know I wanted to be in animation when I was younger, right? I knew I wanted to do art. I liked to draw when I was a kid. I went to school in Lyon, France, and I learned how to draw, how to paint, and anatomy, perspective, sculpture, a bunch of different things. And suddenly I discovered that they are doing animation, cell animation, 2D. And I fell in love with it. I found that suddenly you can give life to a drawing. It becomes more than just a flat thing, it has a personality. You can give feeling, and people react to that, and I love that. It was also at the same time then that Toy Story came out. It's a long time ago.
95, isn't it?
Yeah, and that just blew my mind at that time. And I'm like, maybe one day I'll be at Pixar. That was a dream. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I started.
That's how you got into
animation.
The inspiration. Yeah. Awesome, man. That's brilliant. When you're starting a new project, what does your creative process look like? Are there any particular habits or routines you get into, like when you animate in the shot?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing feature animation. I've worked 25 years in animation now. It's a lot. 11 years in games and other things like music videos and commercials, stuff like that. So that was in France, right? Yeah. And then I moved to the US to do feature animation. So I started working for DreamWorks for 11 years. And then Pixar, now it's been a bit more than 3 years, right? But after all that time, you start developing like a process. Every time you get a shot, it's hard at the beginning, but now it's like, I know how to do it. It's a bit of routine. It's second nature. So one of my processes, we get launched, we get casted on a shot or a sequence of shots, and so I watch the shots, the layout version on my computer. Then I go to dailies with the director, and he tells me what he has in mind for the shots, for the sequence, and I ask questions because it's rough. The layout pass is really rough, but sometimes you're like, but what this character wants for this moment, what is the mindset, and what these actions is really basic, but do you want something particular for that movement, for that moment?
So you're asking the director that?
I'm asking him. So to make sure that I hit all on what he wants for the
Yeah,
shot,
yeah.
right? That the intent
Yeah.
and the emotion.
Yeah.
So then I go back to my desk and I start doing research, and the research takes a lot of different.
I was going to say, sorry, no, but this is a very important point. Like,
Yeah.
even like recently on LinkedIn, we have another friend, Ali.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He did a talk, he's at Pixar too. And he said, you cannot do enough research.
No.
That article he had on there, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's like just planning. Even you got the 9 old men who said, spend half your time planning, half your time
Yeah.
animating, isn't it? So yeah, man, that's...
I would say even more than that.
More
Than
yeah.
half. Yeah, that would be even better.
See, that's that's the reason why I stopped there is that planning emphasis is, it's like it can't be stressed enough, because as students, when we first start animating, we get over ambitious, isn't it? We want to do this and
Yeah,
that.
and you're excited. You just
Yeah.
want to go, and that maybe the shot is really funny, and then you're like, oh, I want to make that funny shot, that funny face expression. But no, don't start right away. The idea is the most important. All the little ideas. It's not just the big thing about the shot, but how you approach. You think about the brows. You think about the eyes. You think about the posture. You think about the timing. All of that you should think in advance and not start animating when you don't have an idea of all of those.
And do you feel when you do that, you go through the shot a bit more fluently, isn't it?
It's night and day.
Yeah.
When I started working in feature, I would start a shot and I would do some research. Don't get me wrong. I would, because in Animation Mentor we learned that we should do that, video reference and thumbnails. But even doing that, I would still reblock my shot, right? Because I didn't have a super precise idea of the shot, and so there is some moments when I'm animating, I'm like, what should I do here? And then suddenly you have to stop and then think about it, and then it doesn't really work with the gesture that you had before or after. So then you're like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then you start over, and then you lose time. And so now I'm not losing time. I'm like thinking, make sure that everything will work, and ask people also their opinion. That's really important. But then I just go forward. It's like I block my shot. I show it 90% of the time, 95% of the time. The director says, "Yeah, that's great. Continue." Right?
Wow.
And because I ask the right questions and I plan my shot as precisely as possible.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing, asking the right questions, isn't it? Like, because remember we had a mentor, Jason Schleifer.
Yeah, amazing.
And he said, there's also an art in knowing what the director wants, isn't it? That's a good thing to have, skill to have as well, isn't it? What their vision is.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes from experience, right? You even when you're not get launched, when you're not the one who's being launched on the shot, you still hear other animators getting launched and what type of questions they are asking, what is the director telling them, and sometimes the director don't say something specific about the shot, and you're like, yeah, but I know in the past, in that, like last week, one of animator, he asked this question, and in return, his shot was awesome. So maybe I should ask this kind of question. So you learn from not just yourself, but you also from others. That's great.
That's very similar to the way Animation Mentor was set up, where you could go to other people's workspaces and look at their mentors' feedback.
Yeah.
So that's very encouraging as well, because you can give. Do you agree with me or not on this? But like when you can learn a lot from someone else's critique, because they're looking at similar stuff, isn't it? Like silhouettes, arcs, and little chest stuff like that. Like all the principles of animation, isn't it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be on your shot. You could take some feedback from other shots.
Exactly.
Logically, you think that.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think that's why they encourage that a lot in Animation Mentor, isn't it? So, awesome, man. That's nice. That's your routine. So it's basic reference blocking, and then breaking down the blocking even more.
Thumbnails, it's really important, especially when the style is not super realistic, right? Because I mean, you have some shows that are more or less. For example, when I worked on Lightyear, I did a lot of video reference because the style was more realistic in terms of the movement, right? But I worked on Win or Lose, which is a TV show, right? That's going to be on Disney Plus soon, which is awesome. And it's a lot more stylized.
Right.
right? And so you can try to do exaggerated movement in your video reference,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're not going to be super cartoony.
Yeah, yeah.
But going back on paper and pushing the poses, that's where you can find some cool ideas.
Yeah,
And so I did that a lot more on Win or Lose, like
yeah.
thumbnailing.
Do you prefer the stylized to realistic?
Yes, because you can push more. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can caricature,
Yeah.
and you can get crazier ideas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff that is impossible to do in real life, and sometimes those things can make it funnier. It can make it connect more with the audience.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I always thought that like people would ask me that like I say I would like to do more stylizers because we see reality every day. The whole point
Yeah,
of animation is you want to get out of that escapism
that's
innit,
totally
and go
true.
into the crazy world, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's nice to know that the workflow is similar to what we were taught, like in
Yeah.
terms of blocking and stuff.
I
innit?
mean,
But,
yeah, it's Animation Mentor. It's not. I'm not sponsoring it
no,
or
no,
anything,
no.
but
There's other
it's an
schools out there too.
amazing
But
school.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, like you said, Jason Schleifer
yeah.
was an amazing.
He's a genius. Isn't it?
Yeah. I learned so much from him.
Yeah, yeah, he's brilliant. That's awesome, man. I was gonna. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yeah.
Pixar are known for their incredible emotional depth. Can you share some examples of how to approach animating emotions to make characters feel so real?
I mean, again, it's all about being prepared, right? Doing your research. For example, when I'm looking for a specific emotion, you know, it's usually you say, well, sometimes the director said, well, this character is sad in this moment. Well, sad is broad,
Yeah.
right?
Why is he sad? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reasons, but also there's level of sadness,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You can be just a little bit sad, you can be heartbroken, you can be devastated, you can, you know, so being sure that you hit the right level, and sometimes it's a mix of emotions also, right? It's not just sadness, but it's sadness with being hurt at the same time, and you know, so I go and research, not just by doing video reference, but also going online. Like I trying to search that emotion. I go on Google and I type, you know, feeling hurt and sad at the same time.
And then you look at
and
the
then I
expression.
look at some images, and I read some articles about being sad and hurt and what does it mean. And I watch videos of actors trying to hit those emotions and see how they did manage to convey that to the audience. So, okay, that they had the brows this way, but then the body was a bit more bent this way. So, and then I do some thumbnails, and I'm like, is that matching what I want to say? And if it's not, then I go back to research, and just it's just back and it can take hours, can take a day or more just for one specific thing.
And then you'd go back and forth with the director. Would the director be always at hand there, like to see, am I doing this right, or is it just dailies?
No. Usually, he launched you on the shot, right? He tells you what he wants, and then you're not gonna see him until you show him the blocking pass. So you're not gonna show him, for example, even your video reference. It's really rare that you show the video reference to the director. It's just for you, you know. And
so they let you have your creative freedom, do what you got to do.
Yeah. At Pixar, that's how it works. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And then those daily, dailies are daily then, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why it is.
Or they used to call them rushes, isn't it, back in the film time?
Okay.
But okay, so then it's not like a once a week you meet.
No. It's every day, but doesn't mean you go every day. It's just if you have something to show, you go.
Okay.
So,
but you can go to learn off others, isn't it?
Exactly. So they encourage you, especially at the beginning or when you're joining a show, and you want to make sure that you match the style, you hit the right notes, you understand how the director is thinking. Even if you're not showing, they're like, hey, come to dailies, see how people are showing and see the reaction, all of that. You learn so much.
It's like we were talking earlier about surrounding, because we know, Nedy Acet, when you're at Pixar, you got all those great people there. Your level will always raise, because it's that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Everyone quotes it, right? You're the average of 5 people you hang around with. So it's the same, like you're in that environment. Once you get in there, then the sky's the limit. You'll just grow with that talent, isn't it?
Because I mean, as long as you are keep your ears open and you're willing to learn and you welcome the critique.
Keep the ego
Yeah,
out in it.
yeah, exactly. That's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Don't have an ego. There's always someone better than you, and you always have something to learn.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant, man. That's a good advice for we starting on, because when we're young, I think the challenge of the youth is not to get caught up in the ego, isn't it? When you're young,
Yep.
you're like, you think you know everything, but then the older I'm getting, you realize you don't know anything, innit? It's funny the way it works,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's like suddenly you open a door and it's like, oh, I didn't know all of this was behind it, and I need to learn all of this too. Okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we have animators who worked on Tarzan,
Yes.
who worked on Lilo and Stitch, and all those classics, and you look at their work, it's mind blowing.
Wow.
The quality.
And that's coming from Nedy, man, who's, I think,
No.
you know what? You have good animators, very good, excellent, outstanding, and then you have great. This is like, you can just see it, I think I'm right at the bottom, good, yeah. But you're like,
no, he's
like,
good.
No. Nedy's like, to get there, his work, just check his work out, man. I'll leave links. If you got Showreel and stuff, I'll leave all that links. Or you have to collect, I don't know if you've got Showreel, but if you do, we'll sort that out. But Nedy's work is brilliant, man. Oh, thank you, man. That's very nice. Because that emotional side, it's like, like when you're animating emotion, say if a character's angry, and you're like, do you tend to like stay in that emotion, or work the pose until the next emotion comes and you come out of it?
Well, it all depends on the shot. Sometimes you need to really stay in the emotion, and then it's a sudden change, right, to another one, because maybe someone tells you something, you're angry, and the other person is saying, but I love you, and so then you're like, oh, okay, I'm not angry anymore, right? But it could be like more like you realize you're angry, so you're angry, and then you're like, why am I angry? And then you stop, and then you're like,
you're showing the thinking there,
right?
isn't it?
Yeah. So it's all about what's happening in your head, and you don't animate angry, by the way, right? You're not going like, oh, I'm gonna animate the emotion angry. You're like, I'm this character in that moment, in that situation. How would I react? How would I act? And then you animate that. You animate the thinking. All of
I was going to say, the thinking, thought process, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not about just the emotion. It's about.
There's always the why, isn't it? Like
it's
teachers are also, mentors always used to say, why? Why are you moving that character? What's the reason behind moving it? It's not just moving it, I guess as actors, they have to get that emotion out there and then.
Yeah.
But with animators, we're kind of lucky because we can go behind the scenes and get all this reference, plan it together. But we still got to put a bit of ourselves.
It's kind of weird because you're trying to make a performance, right, on a specific shot, and you're trying to make it as natural as possible, right? Like it happens in the moment, it's just normal. But then you worked 2 weeks on that 2 seconds. So then it feels like you do the opposite of what it should be, like natural, right, and easy. And then you have to make it look natural, but it's not.
But the process isn't natural.
No, it's just grueling,
Back and forth, no, I get that, man. That's brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next. This is like, is there any specific scene or character you've worked on that holds a special place in your heart? What went into bringing it to life?
There's so many. I'm personally, I like being on pre-productions on movies, right? Because that's when you can influence a little bit the choices for the characters, who they are, how they move, right? And I had the pleasure to do that on a few movies, but one of the best for me in that aspect is Peabody and Sherman at DreamWorks a long time ago. And Jason was actually on this, and he trusted me on some of the characters.
Why not? Why wouldn't he?
I don't know, but there was this principal. His name was Purdy, and I just kept adding and adding layers on top of on him, and mannerism and little thing that he does with his eyes and his like little twitches and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't see that enough in animation, so I try to bring that up. And that for me is awesome to do. You know, when you have the liberty to add those
and they took that on board. They saw
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so yeah, I did a lot of the principle in this movie, and I did Marie Antoinette also. I really helped define her.
I got her book. I still need to read it.
And also Robespierre, which is the bad guy a little bit in the movie. So yeah, I helped define those characters, and that was amazing. That was super fun. It's because nice. you become the character. I mean, and you know, I tend to get overboard. I go super far.
Yeah.
For example, in my video reference, I would dress as the character.
Yeah,
like Robespierre. I don't want to show the video reference because it's ridiculous, but I had like a wig, you know, and I would have the coat and like proper thing, you know.
Awesome.
And all of that made me, so I'm the character, and the way I have my hair, I could do something like that because I don't have long hair, but he did. So that gives a bit of personality. The same with Marie Antoinette. I act like a lady, and I try to be like a bit larger. I put stuff in there.
Put some blooms in.
Because you move differently. It's not because, you know. But,
it's funny you mentioned that because I remember Steve Cady, or now our mentor, he said he had to do a reference for Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
And he had to like go like this and put some red heels on. And as a reference, and his wife, he said, my wife was just laughing at him.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know, Steve, man, if you're watching this, I'm sure you did say that. That's why I remember it. But
that's priceless.
Yeah. But that's nice to know that in that pre-production, it's a good feeling to know that your opinion is valued like that. You know?
Yeah. Because I mean, you can have those ideas also when you're in production, but it's easier to come up with new material and really define, because you do some tests, right? You have time to do some tests in pre-production with the character, and it gives you
the
time.
rigs and everything. Innit?
You test the rigs, but at the same time you try to define the character. So when we actually start the production, people, all the animators they have an idea of how you should move, walk, talk, you know, all of that.
Personality in it, trying to get that through.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, moving on from that, which is linked to this, is that how does the collaboration work at Pixar? How closely do you work with other departments like storyboarding, lighting, sound design during the animation process? Or that the actors come in and film, don't they? And then do you use that as reference sometimes as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple layers on the questions, but first the departments that we interact the most with are the ones just before us and right after us, which is layout, right?
Yes.
Because it's just before animation. So sometimes we ask them to change some things, and sometimes they ask us to change some things. And then we have a simulation after, which is the cloth and hair. So sometimes we have a shot where the character needs to grab something on theirs, you know, the coat or something. And so we work with them. But in terms of the other departments like storyboarding or other
lighting and sound.
Lighting a little bit, but
sound is probably a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. We don't really interact with them. Sometimes on some shot we have to change the timing for the dialogue, right? Because maybe when they recorded, you know, they recorded the audio before we animate, right?
It works differently in film, isn't it?
Yeah. So we get the audio and then we try to act on it. And then sometimes when we do a first pass, we're like, I wish there was a bit of a gap between this first part of the sentence and the second part, because it would give me the opportunity to have a thought process, right? So you can see why he would do this. So in a way, we're also actors and directors, you know. We're all trying to make the best product possible. So if we have an idea like that, we can pitch it to the director, and it's like, hey, I think I should move the dialogue on that second part by 6 frames, or extend the shot by 12 frames, because it gives me an opportunity to really finish the shot with a funny face or something, right? And they're like, Oh yeah, that works. Or sometimes like yeah, we cannot add 12 frames because we're short. We don't have enough for the movie.
Yes,
We're
yes.
running long, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Timelines and
Yeah.
deadlines.
Yeah. And then it's about also timing in the movie. It's rhythm. It's contrast, right? So if some scene takes too long, then you're like I want to move on. I want to go to the next thing. So
Yes, yes.
it's storytelling.
It's the flow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the arcs, story arcs, all that. Yeah, sorry, what I was going to mention is in film, in like live action film, the sound is done in post production, but in animation,
a lot. Yeah.
the audio. I guess the sound effects are done at the end in post, but the audio comes in first in animation.
Yeah.
That
And
you
then
have
we
to
have
animate
to,
to.
yeah, we have to imagine how would the actor would do it. So to go back to the second part of your question is, do we see the recordings,
Yeah.
right? Because when the actor come to record the audio, they also record the video of him
Yes. Yeah.
doing those lines. So yes, we have access to those, and then we see them, and sometimes it's amazing. Like you can get so much of the ideas,
Yeah, yeah.
the acting, right? And sometimes they're just talking, So it's which is fine, and then that's our job to make it entertaining,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I always thought that you can get a lot from those video references because some of the actors are quite animated as well. Isn't it?
Yeah, and sometimes their voice is really animated, but then you look at the video and they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's a
so,
genius in itself, isn't it?
yeah.
Awesome, man. That's brilliant. Oh, loving these answers, man. I'm sure the
I'm
students
trying,
are. No, that's brilliant, man. It's gems. Nedy's dropping gems as usual. Man. Animation technology is constantly evolving. Are there any recent advancements or tools that have changed the way you approach your work?
Whew. There's not like a huge difference between when I started like 14 years ago in feature. It's just like easier to do some changes in your animation. It's faster, like more real time, right? I really used to do play blast when I was working in Maya. At DreamWorks we had a software called Primo, so it's proprietary. How do you say?
Proprietary, yeah. Proprietary tools, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's not Maya. We don't use Maya. And at Pixar, it's called Presto, right?
Yes.
And so it's made just for animation, and it's amazing, and it's super fast. And that is, I think, maybe the thing that I like the most. You can have also like ambient occlusion, right, in real time, this kind of stuff. That that helps a lot with contacts and stuff like that.
Yes, the shadows and everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see.
You can have lighting too, but it's not as important in my opinion.
And then you have, I remember you saying in the software there, you've got these massive pose libraries of all the characters, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can you speak a bit about that? Like how?
Yeah, I mean, it comes also in the pre-production phase, right? So the person creating the tests, doing tests for a specific character, they do some tests and they figure out how the character should move, should have his lip sync, what should it look like? And so his smile, his frown, and so they pose those, right? And they make sure that the director likes them,
right?
That you have input from all the different animation directors, supervisors. And so they define those poses that are really specific to that character. And they're like, okay, this is, I think, how he should smile. This is, I think he should be angry and sad and all of those expressions. And we create snapshots of those, right? The values of each control.
Yes.
And then you can just double click and boom, it goes onto the character. That's the smile. And it's on model, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a shortcut when you're animating, when you don't know the character, but you don't want to just rely on that,
right?
Because it becomes really basic, and it should be about a specific emotion or a specific moment in the shot. So you should not want to do just a generic thing. The character should not smile the same way throughout the whole movie, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, so is that, so in pre-production, they'd have all those library for all the characters?
Yeah, they try. I mean, it's a lot of work. So sometimes also we learn about the character a bit more as we're animating, when there's more people coming on the show. And so we add to the library. It's like, oh, this guy, he did like this shot. it's amazing the expression that he did on this character. It fits the character perfectly. Let's add this expression that he did into the library. And then people will be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use this face exactly at that moment. It works great. You know?
Always evolving in it as you're doing.
Yeah. And we do cycles too. So you, in the library, before starting, usually you have a walk cycle and a run cycle for each character. And then you have character poses.
Yes.
They do like drawings, right? They do also a wiki type of page for each character, and they explain.
We have that in games too.
Yeah. It's really important, and they're like, be careful to always have the corner of the mouth on this character be round, and they show good and bad, and so they like be sure that the shoulders are never too up because this character doesn't have his shoulder up ever. You know, so they tell stuff to do and to not do.
That's brilliant, man. Yeah. So a lot goes into
so much.
A lot of documentation. I remember when even starting at where I'm at now, working on Star Wars Hunters, it's the same. We have a wiki page, and it's the same. Like these are the knockback poses that got to be like this specifically. You know, like you have to keep it 2 frames because of the gameplay. You know, gameplay is different to get a feature, but that's awesome, man. So it's nice to see that the feature companies have that same approach too.
Yeah,
you know, and they're trying. They do try and help us as much as they can, isn't it? You know, the tools are all there to help us, so we appreciate that as well.
We do.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant, man. And Pixar, another question is, so Pixar, sorry. Oh man, I said that wrong. Pixar films often have hidden Easter eggs and callbacks.
Yeah.
Have you ever contributed to a personal touch or subtle detail in a project that viewers might not notice? The secret signs.
I haven't yet, but I'm working right now on Elio. Right, it's scheduled for next year, for summer next year, and I have a shot that might have Easter egg that I come up with. So, but it's not sure yet, so I don't want to.
We have to spoil it.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Nice one. Yeah. Normally artists don't talk about it. I remember. I'm not gonna say the artist's name, but I'll tell you what. He recently won an Emmy. He's moved to Burbank.
Okay.
But I remember when we were working at Ninja Theory. He called me over to his desk, concept artist, and narrowing it down now. And he said, Opi, have a look. Can you notice anything? And you can just about see his face in the sword.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but you know, he was like, it was
like a little bit blurry, but it's just 1 or 2 frames. Yeah.
Opacity was like, I just about made it out. I was like, all right, that's your little mark you put on, but I think he got rid of it.
It's fun. It's fun to do those little things.
I think did he keep in, or was that, I don't know if that poster was used, but I could just about see it. I was like, that's your signature, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I'm sure artists have put in a few things. In games, there was one who, I heard that someone left the debug mode in there, and the coder. Okay. So it's got all the cheat codes and stuff like that. You know, I don't know how they got that through content complete in games, but anyway.
I don't know.
But yeah, that's all right. We'll have to keep an eye out, okay, on the next film with Nedy for that. That's brilliant. All right, man. So there's this one. What's the biggest challenge you faced in animation, and how did you overcome it?
Let me think about this one for a second. Biggest challenge. I think it's more. I think it's more career in terms of career, right? It's as a student when you come from Animation Mentor and it's new, you go into this feature thing and you're excited and it's awesome. Yeah. You learn so much in the first few months, first few years, and you see your work on the big screen. That's awesome, right? But you need to keep that going, right? Yeah. And so I've done that for 14 years, and I hope to do that for another 14 or more. Yeah. So you need to keep engaged, you need to keep fresh. When you see new recruits, young people like 20 years old coming to Pixar, there is some like interns and stuff. They have a lot of energy, right? So I think that's the biggest challenge, is to stay fresh and to always want to do something amazing and be inspired by the work.
Yeah, because
push
you're hungry,
yourself. Yeah, you need to be hungry.
Angry too, man.
Yeah, you want to be.
I know what you mean about because you're kind of like, you might be feeling threatened because the younger guys are more hungry coming in.
Yeah.
They might take your place. But then on one side,
It's
you
not
got
about the place. It's
No.
it's more about the work, and they see how magical animation is. I mean, it changes people's life. People say, "Oh man, I saw this movie, or this moment, this character. It's really important to
The
me.
empathy in it,
Yeah, the
yeah.
empathy. That's something that made me close to my daughter because of that. You know, you hear some stories like, wow, that's amazing. I do this work that sometimes change people's life,
Yeah.
right? That gives a lot of positive, a lot of great emotion.
A joy to watch as well,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, and or just you don't think about your life for 2 hours, and that's great too. And so sometimes you kind of forget, and you
How lucky position we're in, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. It's amazing. So I think the challenge is to keep that fire sometimes a little bit. But I found a bunch of ways, and like especially with,
Can you share some of them?
I mean, one of them is not even like me doing anything. It's just like when you change your environment is also good, right?
Yes.
When I moved to Pixar, change environment, you see some new things, some new techniques, some new people, some people you like admire for. They're like, you see their work and boom, you're like, wow, that's new, that's different, and then you get inspired a bit more, and it's just that's what happened for me when I joined Pixar.
So that is sometimes changing. Like when I was at Lego for 11 years, similar. You're at DreamWorks for 11 years. I was at, but when you change, you realize changing can be a really good thing as well.
It
right?
is, yeah.
You're in your comfort zone, and you can be afraid of jumping out. But like we're saying, we're talking about like this year, the industry, gaming industry, even Pixar. We've gone through like layoffs, and you think in the moment your world's falling down, but in my experience, I've lost my job 4 times. It always worked out better. I know in the moment you feel, what am I going to do? But there's always opportunities there. And then we're talking about the youngsters coming in. But the thing is, you got experience on your side. So that's also something that is really valuable. Because right now, what I've noticed, like in this pandemic, the last 4 years, I've lost my job twice. But I have got jobs. And I think it's because of the experience. Because I've noticed a lot of graduates are struggling as well, which is kind of sad. They should be given a chance to break through the industry, or some kind of internship or something, just because they ask for experience.
It's true.
But I was like that when I graduated. I didn't get a job for a year. And all I wanted was that one experience to get in.
You need a chance.
Yeah,
right?
just give graduates a chance. Where I'm working now, there's this lady sitting in front of me. She's studying, but she got a job. She got a position as an intern for 1 year. I said, "You're lucky you got that."
Yeah.
Really take advantage of it. Then she's going to go back to uni, and hopefully they'll hire her after. Which I said, you're more likely you will get hired.
Of course, they know her, and
So that's really good. It's encouraging, man. Just don't give up on that, man.
Exactly.
So another question that the students have asked is, what's your biggest inspiration?
Well, I don't think about inspiration this way. It's not like one thing. I think I try to get, when I'm not working at Pixar, I try to get as much interest in different things as I can. So I do a lot of different things. It's maybe too much, but I do some 3D printing. I do some painting. I do some Arduino. I do some woodworking. Just anything that comes to mind. I just try, and all that is fueling my animation. And then interest, right? It doesn't have to be something I do. It could be like, I like space. I like so I learn about space. I like robots and technology. So all of those things they bring back to animation. I like sports, right? So anything that shows a specific impressive body, I don't know how
body mechanics in it.
Yeah, something impressive. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And
I try to comic books are good, isn't it, for that?
Comic books, and I learn from that, and I save them in my Instagram, and I have thousands of links, right? And I save them. It's not related to animation per se, but they feed my my imagination and my vision, and so I understand more movement because of that.
Yeah,
right?
you building that library, isn't it?
Yeah. So life is fueling your animation. It's not. Don't think that you have to read a lot of books about animation, or animation is mimicking life. You're faking emotion. You're faking movement. You. It's an illusion, right?
Yeah.
So you need to study life.
Yeah.
So make sure you have a life outside of work. It's not. Don't just be like
And you know, like on the YouTube channel, when I do tutorials at the end, I always say that go out for a walk, live, and then put that back into your
and then
work.
study people, right?
Yeah.
If you're look at people, and it's not just for thinking of animation, but it's empathy, right? And you talk to people, and you learn about stuff, and then ultimately it will go into your animation. But it's not even like I do that just for animation. It's just like I think it's good for life also.
Yeah, because when I go on walks, I talk to people.
Yeah.
As an animator, my thinking is, I said, look, there's a story behind that person.
Yeah.
Like then you talk to them, especially the old people. They got history, isn't it? They talk to them.
It's just society is a bit weird sometimes, but you, as a human, you're like, your life is the most important thing, right? You're like, but each person has as complex as a life as you have, right? And they have their own problem, their family, their struggles. It's complicated. Each person is complicated. So you think you're the center, but no.
With a little speck in space.
We're just trying to get along. And
there's a good book on that called The Pale Blue Dot. The Hubble telescope. It goes as far as it could go back, and there's a picture of Earth, and it's just this pale blue dot.
Yep.
Everyone's emotions, everything, conflicts, it's all on that one ball, isn't it? That little. But I was going to talk to you one more thing before finishing, is the AI. What do you think about AI?
It's a weird thing, man. I think it's really different than any other technology that came before them, because it's basically another intelligence. So if it keeps growing, and it will at some point, not now, but it will be as good as a human, or even better, and in any category, and even artistic, and if it can think really like a human at some point, like you cannot distinguish it from another human, it can have like thoughts and deep conversation with that machine, then you're like, why not can it make art, right? That's something that that scares me.
Me too.
Because you're like, isn't art just a human thing? And maybe not. At some point, it's going to be also a machine thing. Then maybe you'll be like, oh, I'm inspired by this machine. It's kind of weird.
I know, man. It's like we'll have to see the reaction when it comes to that, isn't it?
I mean, I hope it doesn't happen too fast. I still want to have a job, but
yeah. I know it's scary, man. It's one, but then you've got that issue of copywriting and the actual human. Like, will it ever? Nothing can replace. It's artificially replaced, but it's not truly a true feelings that we have, empathy, isn't it? It's been reprogrammed into them, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, maybe now it's the way it's done, but maybe they will find a way to make it not programmed. It's just like a kid, right? Imagine a kid, he learns, he doesn't know anything at first, right? And it's through experience that he discovers empathy and feelings and all that.
True. The
so
ego
why don't the machine can do that too?
That's a very good point, man. When you say it like that, you're right. Because having a 4-year-old daughter myself, you're right. You can see how all the ego kicks in and everything, and the kids are like, mine, me.
It's just through experience, right?
And
conflict and all of that. So maybe the machine can do that, but in 1 second, all that time that passes, that your kid takes 20 years to become that person, it's just maybe 1 second for the
all
machine.
that animation planning.
I hope not.
Oh, well, let's not worry about that now. when it comes, you know.
Yeah.
At the moment, they need artists. They need us. Yeah.
for the moment.
Awesome,
Yes.
man. Awesome. All right, Nedy, that's great, man. Thank you so much, man.
No, thank you.
Thank you, man. I haven't seen Nedy for 13 years, man.
It feels like 50.
Yeah, no, it was. We got to stop meeting after a long time. But what I'm going to say is, I'm going to try and visit and go to the States and just whenever we get time to just visit and maybe do a podcast there or something, you know.
Yeah, we'll do a visit of the studio.
Or maybe that Pixar. Yeah, I can bring my camera, right? If they let me.
We'll do a podcast there.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. We'll definitely organize it because I'm in Manchester. I traveled. I came all the way to Bournemouth to see. I did my masters there, but I wanted to see Nedy there as well, man. Like, you know, it's just and I got to see my old teacher that 20 years ago. So bloody hell, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's been great, man. And some of the exercises that Nedy did, a lot of pantomime exercises here. Acting exercises workshop here in Bournemouth Festival, and it was really good to hear what he was teaching, you know. And if you can make it to the festivals, they have great guest speakers here as well. Once a year it happens. They may even bring you back next year, man. You know, like they normally do, repeat people back. Sorry, repeat visitors, isn't it? They bring them back. So I was going to say, is there anywhere they can see you, like connect with you, socials?
Yeah, well, I'm on Instagram, so it's my name, Nedy Acet, and you add art at the end, so Nedy Acet art.
I'll put the links, don't worry.
Yeah. But I'm gonna start posting a lot more about animation. I posted a lot more drawings and some 2D animation, but I want to post more about.
They're awesome though, man. They're proper loops. They're wicked. Check them out.
But I want to talk more about animation and. How to bring your animation to the next level.
Yeah, you know? Definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah, so if you want to subscribe, and I'll post more of that.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
a wealth of
subscribe
information.
to his channel. He's awesome. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. You know, this is the first podcast. What better way, man?
Yeah.
Senior animator from Pixar. Well, my friend, man. And we
and
we worked. You know, we went to the same school together, and you know, it's lovely to see how Nedy's career is just gone like that, man. It's brilliant, man. You know, thank you so much for doing the podcast, man. You didn't have to, man. You did it, man. No. It's my first ever podcast. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, man. Take it easy, man. Say. Okay, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed that. I loved just catching up with Nedy. He was, you know, he always has great advice, and he's very generous with his time. You know, there's a dialogue shot that I want to do that he said he's going to help me with, and I can share that with you guys as well on my YouTube channel once I get that going. And I really appreciate this time. He took the time and trouble out. You know, it was a long flight for him from San Francisco, and we did the podcast early in the morning around 9 o'clock. So, you know, he had to get back to Heathrow to get on his flight from London. And I really appreciate that, Nedy. And for any of you guys who are looking to level up your animation too, so I just thought I'd just let you know we have a special offer on the course, Maya Animation Mastery. Check out the link in the description for that and all that good stuff, and subscribe to the newsletter where we have weekly updates about the industry, games, films, and animation in general. And I will see you in the next video. Take care for now. Look after yourself. Go for a walk. You know, as we said, animation is living. Get those experiences and put them in your work. Until next time, guys. Ciao.